All right, and these are all brand new. I haven't read most of these out loud. I just finished writing them, or at least getting them into shape to read out loud at a conference last week in New Mexico called The Glen. And it's an art and faith conference. Oh, I guess I need some internet. Oh, no, I don't. Never mind. Anyway, so these are kind of new. These are all set in the San Juan Islands. I think you guys know where those are. Give me 1 second here. And the working title of this book is called The Life in Common Things. So if that's kind of a clue, the whole idea is as a child, I used to run around in the woods a lot up on Orcas Island, and I used to be absolutely astonished at the most mundane objects. And so I just wrote a book of poetry about how magical the everyday world is, because it really is just remarkable when we stop and look at it. So these are poems about being little, a lot of them. The first one is called Rag, Braid, Rug. You guys know what those are, right? Okay. Rag, braid, rug. Past a black iron stove that roared all winter and hunkered down from pure cold wrath all summer, flexing its terrible clawed toes. Through a dark hall, we'd enter a glassed-in room at the back of the house, home to cacti and rows of glass bottles on bright upper sills. After long observation, I decided they each held either perfume or poison. But to stand so close to the view of the garden and long oval of the shallower pond beat the risk of being hit by the wrong bottle if one tumbled down. Plus, the Christmas cacti with their wild skin flowers were the true and secret power, because obviously they could defy gravity and hovered out into the center of the rug I was sure had been made by the dead, because when I asked Axel, he said his wife had braided it with torn strips of his old shirts, and I knew how much a person could love their shirt, and there I was walking across that nice man's body in my tennis shoes. And up from the grass, a big stag raised his head and turned and looked and gazed at us, hearing all the dead that were everywhere visible, the gentle dead, ceremonious and slow-flowing from all empty things among us. Okay, this one's about a newt. You know those little things that kind of look like salamanders, but they aren't? We have some really cool ones in the Northwest. Cradle. After breakfast, flying out the screen door, the bang as it hit the frame behind us. Up through the sleeping turf, past the outhouse and into the woods. On the path, past the maple, something called to me, and I dropped down to my knees onto the real world. The mossy hills, and valleys wet and blooming where children turn over mountains. This child lord, indifferent to destruction, I ripped up the moss-forested earth to look down into the turning world where inches do hold legacies of fire and water, lace, mycelium, heart rot, and found the sleeping jewel. A rust-skinned newt in his humus cradle, belly the color of witch's butter, breathing cool and slow. And as startled infants tense and flail, he waved his sprocket feet in a slow, tender motion, but found his grip and clung to, and brought his bright orange throat down to my skin, just below the first knuckle, his tail falling half off my fingernail's moon. A rooster crowed in the moor's field, and as my knees went cold, I watched his heart beat at his throat as he warmed slowly. Then he opened one shy, wet eye and gazed, and the eternal peace of small things passed between us. I miss him still, for he was the concealed Lord. All right, let's see. This is a longer poem. I'm not sure if it's done yet, but I'm going to read it anyway. It's called Dove Coop. It's kind of a true story. These are all true stories, actually. Dove Coop. Just past the middle of the woods, a low band of cracked light widened under the boughs until my brother and I stood on the sunny bank. Bees motoring through the drive's hot shoals, the fevered smell of daisies flushing the air. And if we'd guessed the angle through the woods right, we'd be just even with the back porch of Axel's place. I'd count, and we'd jump for center. Axel's house was yellow and stood where hard madrona had been cleared by hand for steamers hauling south. Ponds dug, fruit trees planted, the garden tilled, little rain, but the fruit of that work was a fine and easy kind of time. And if Axel's blue truck was gone from the shed, or we could see his tall frame bent over some chore just under Buck Mountain's north shadow, that counted as permission. And we'd hurtle down the path to his stocked ponds, our red and white bobbers rattling on the poles, sinkers scrambling and bouncing inside the tackle boxes like upended bowls of grapes falling off the table. Startled and jerked up hard by a sharp snap and whistle, banged by fright, the dove coop exploded and the doves fled us, circling and veering, disappearing high into sheer air. Through the leftover dust, one white feather floated out of the sun's cross, called across the coop mesh, and divorced from its body, fell reluctantly into the summer grass. The wind, like a great wave, poured out of the island sky and rolled across the green flank of Buck Mountain, coming for us, I knew, because we had startled the doves and broken the brimming hush of morning's hours. Down over the field, marring the pond, it came for us, and I braced for it would consume and squander the children who once played in the yellow swamp flag, gone now among the perch and long autumn's broken grass. One more. This one's called Sing Blackbird. I'm a big fan of red-winged blackbirds. Sing Blackbird. Red-winged blackbird calls, and the living shield descends into the blue slits between yellow iris through the shadow between cattail. Mud willows catch wind and click. How many green daggers flake off into the silent dapple? And red-winged blackbird calls again, into the heart of the moist lake, roots into the heavy lilies tied to those undulating water terraces. Black crappie, smallmouth bass, all wounds are washed in a bed of clay, drowned in the body of perfection. Light is an arrow endlessly quivering in the red and yellow amulet of blackbird's wing. May the world ring like a bell for you. Thank you. Chris, your turn.
Thank you. Maybe there'll be time for an encore later. Our next reader, oh, by the way, thank you for mentioning Kun Woon. I meant to say that he wasn't able to read tonight, but I'm glad we could hear some of his poems. Filling in at the last minute, and thank you to Chris for doing that, is Christopher Jarmick. And he's been organizing readings in this area for more than 12 years, so my little 8-year stint here is nothing compared to him. His latest book of poetry is Ignition, Poem Starters, Septoles, Statements, and Double Dog Dares. And he has copies here. Wave it, Vanna. He has also recorded the spoken word CD Radio Pictures, Oral Anxieties with Michael Ford. His poems, articles, interviews, and book reviews have appeared in Many Trails to the Summit from Rose Alley Press, in Rattle, Raven Chronicles, and online. A former Los Angeles television producer with credits that include award-winning PBS documentaries and segments for Entertainment Tonight, Hard Copy, and other programs, Chris moved to Seattle in 1994 and now lives in Kenmore, Washington, where the TV cameras can't reach him. Please welcome Christopher J. Jarmick.
Oh, well, thank you, Michael. Good to see Clint and all the folks here at Soul Food. Poem Starter 257. I tell too much, yet you miss the point, so I must tell too little. Altman Parts Pantoum. Parts of a Robert Altman movie. Footprints made in sand. Temporary evidence of touching other lives. I feel how warm it was. Footprints made in sand by people we once knew. I feel how warm it was. Fresh surprise, sparkling eyes, private joke smiles. People we once knew, believed we were all that mattered. Plotting surprises, sparkling eyes, private joke smiles. Merging dreamscapes, we were different. We were all that mattered. Discovering truths, disappointments. Our dreams merged differently then. We needed less. We had more. Discovering many truths disappointed. Dissolving evidence of lives touching. We needed more. We had less. As parts of a Robert Altman movie. And here's a poem that was published by Kuhn Woon in Chrysanthemum magazine. The Parakeets of Seward Park. The parakeets of Seward Park, perhaps from Peru, Chapman metered conures, feasting on the big leaf maple flowers of Pinoy Hill, wild, free, watching for red-tailed hawks, raiding nearby suburban bird feeders for gourmet sunflower seeds, dancing on telephone wires with barn swallows, crows, then back into Seward Park, amongst Anna's hummingbirds, woodpeckers, song wrens, chickadees, screech owls, and occasional curious poets scratching marks onto tree products about Peruvian transplants, giddy in green, green forest. Poem Starter 1429. The sound of nothing wasn't heard, but the meaningless of the moment mattered. Poem Starter 1501. The Book of Nothing contains blank pages. Bad book news. The Book of Humility is a ripoff. On the cover it instructs you to read the book in the dark. On the inside there are no words. The letters and words in the Book of Narcissism are backwards. The reason for this is that so you can read it in the mirror to yourself. The Book of Common Sense is a counterfeit published by greedy jerks who realized they couldn't charge much for the original version because it was just a pamphlet. No one claims authorship of the Book of Love because it was written by a married couple who couldn't decide whose name went first. Later they got divorced for reasons of adultery, and the book became a ward of the state of Delaware, for tax reasons, but they kept authorship credit off the books because of a government conspiracy. The Book of Conspiracy is full of holes. They blame it on bookworms, but it was moths. The Book of Light was pulled off the shelves for causing blindness. The Book of Judgments is still in litigation. The Book of Cards was recalled. The Book of Old Age removed from circulation. The Book of Disease is contagious. The Book of Reviews is still being edited. The Book of Poetry doesn't rhyme in Spanish. The Book of Foreign Languages is unreadable because it was translated phonetically by the last surviving speaker of Wito. The Book of Perfection was misprinted. The Book of Irony isn't ironic enough to read, plus it violated copyrights for quoting a song without getting permission from Alanis Morissette. The laugh track for the audiobook version of the Book of Comedy is out of sync. No one bothered to finish the Book of Apathy. And finally, on a sad note, the last copy of the Book of Libraries was lost. Poem Starter 1314. In that place where dust is made, no warmth, no laughter. Poem starter 1426. Live your dash, said the man in the cemetery. Live your dash. Michael's number. There it was, still on my phone. The number and the name, Michael D. His phone stopped working a few weeks before he died. I think of Michael Dublay's improvisations at the poetry readings, our impromptu collaborations, our talk of doing more, how music always meant more than most took the time to realize, taken for granted like sunrises, praying, God, a down-and-out musician. I can't delete the number, not now, not yet, and when I do, it won't stop me from hearing the beautiful music he made. It echoes loud when I remember to listen to it. Check your oil, clean your windshield. This dirty memory regret I have with all be gone soon. Burn the pretty lace doily, collectible comic books too. Smash the Hummel figurines, forget the good times, they lie. Arrange the oil cans all in a too neat row. Let them ponder this disturbing display. Got a match? Not a self-made poem. Through the pea-soup fog of self-doubt, the loser, formerly known as You Won't Amount to Anything, steps up to the microphone and reads a muted scream filtered into a poem about sunlight sliced by evergreen bristles into beams of light. The writer's fingers weren't bloodied when he typed on his keyboard with the fury of Pete Townshend thrashing his guitar, and his calm demeanor never let you imagine a sexually abused past. It's been washed off his sleeve long ago by a downpour of wordplay, soothed by peppermint bombs of humor, redirecting rage under titanium pan, frying up doubt and lack of confidence that sticks to the Teflon coating, though the pretender at the microphone ignores the irony with every breath. Poem starter 1306. There's no loneliness in his eyes when he's writing. Poem starter 1412. Discomfort is the seed of creativity. Distraction, its enemy. Dishonesty, its antithesis. Recovery Girl for Daria. Recovery Girl takes her first few steps on the tightrope stretched over Relapse Canyon. Loved ones hold their breath for her, needing to help, knowing they must not. There's little confidence inside Recovery Girl. She must trust words from an invisible coach, ignore how naked, how utterly alone she feels, and she must fight with every thread of her soul the irresistible urge to look down. Poem starter 1530. They say man has no natural predator. We do, however, have each other. Poem starter 1401. The Hawaiian shirt poem starter. Pen leaked, staining Hawaiian shirt, but most don't notice when I wear it. 13 ways of looking at a Hawaiian shirt, with apologies to Wallace Stevens. 1. Among well-dressed suit and tie bankers at crowded airport gate, the man with Hawaiian shirt stood out. 2. In Seattle grocery store, a different man in Hawaiian shirt said, "Aloha" to me. 3. Over Hawaiian shirt, man in post office line has red and black flannel shirt, Northwest style. 4. There at computer desk in library sits man in bright purple and orange Hawaiian shirt. I must join this quiet revolution, wear my Hawaiian shirt. 5. I do not know which one to wear, ocean palm tree formal style or abstract splashes of rusty-colored floral shapes on off-white. 6. Double exposure-like reflection in store window on mannequin wearing high-fashion white dress, now my Hawaiian shirt faintly part of it. 7. Once fashioned from Japanese kimono fabric sold mainly to tourists in 1930s, now business wear for islanders, collared shirt, button front, short sleeve, straight hem, do not tuck in, true Hawaiian shirt. 8. Does banker in formal attire take me less serious as I talk investments? Or perhaps this shirt says money bought freedom. I remember my Hawaiian shirt styled tie with Mickey Mouse heads throughout. 9. A pair of Hawaiian shorts. 9. A pair of Hawaiian shirts walk across green grass in park many floors below. I notice them first. 10. Beach Boy song plays during elevator ride to parking garage. 11. Late afternoon Starbucks line. Teen wears bright yellow red bird of paradise Hawaiian shirt, texting on phone. 12. I spy jogger in what was once called Aloha shirt. Among floral design is a peace sign. The radio station plays the theme from Fellini's 8½" by Nina Rota. It oddly fits my people-watching mood. 13. Light fading as I arrive home. Plot thrift shop browse, perhaps tomorrow, for new Hawaiian shirts. The Hacker Focky, with apologies to Lewis Carroll. 'Twas Google and the old sea Yahoo did yawn and Twitter on the net. All vixens were the baby boos and now lilt crocs confet. Beware the hackerfock, my son, with pics that lie, posts that kill. Beware the cyberbull, Facebook shun, the criminy slacker will. He took his thermal mouse in hand, long search for nerdist foe he scoured. Distracted he by eBay ads, YouTube cats devoured. And in his unprotected viewing, the hackerfock with tools of shame attacked with virus spewing, and IM'd as it came. The thermal mouse went clickety-click, 0101, track and track. He quarantined and took its head, message boarding frack. And hast thy newbie slain hackerfock? Emoticons to you, dear boy, O Yangpo Day, Vacru Bichet, they gleek text in their joy. 'Twas Google and the old sea Yahoo did yawn and Twitter in the net. All vixens were the baby boos, and our lilt crocs confet. Poem starter 1430. At both ends are beginnings. Oh, I do have a Soul Food Books poem. Insatiable. I'm hungry, insatiable to tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, which though politically incorrect to some, I'd swear with my hand on a Bible and to God. Though the Quakers might take offense at my swearing anything, reminding me in James 5, verse 12, it says, "But above all things, my brethren, swear not, neither by heaven, neither by earth, neither by any other oath." But we could argue with the old school versions of the Tea Party that we could swear the allegiance only to God. But if you are an atheist, you'd swear on your very highest degree of honor, or your mama's grave. Interesting, I thought, that on April 29, 2004, then Vice President Cheney and President Bush were not required to take the oath when they testified to the Senate 911 Commission. Everyone else, including Condoleezza Rice, took the oath. Wonder why that was. And I wonder, too, where this oath came from, thinking it must be those oath-loving Romans whose legends say grabbed their balls when they swore to tell the truth, the whole cojones truth, which they explain is where the word testes, as in testify and testicle, comes from. Oh, it's such a baseball world, isn't it, girls? Turns out testes has a root meaning three and not balls at all. And the oath thing is of Anglo-Saxon origin, serfs pledging loyalty to lords and that sort of thing. Did I mention how insatiable I was? It's true. Swear to poetry. This Sunday, August 11th, some of you may want to consider a drive down to Auburn. They're having their Good Old Days festival, which is quite fun, and several streets are blocked off, and there's lots of classic cars parked all along the streets to gawk out, and several bands will be playing. And inside the air-conditioned Auburn Theater, the poets will be gathering. From 9 a.m. to noon, there's a free workshop. From 12:30 to 3, there's a lot of different featured poets. From 3 to 3:30, there's going to be a tribute to Jack McCarthy. And there's an open mic contest with 6 valuable baskets of goodies and prizes that will be given away to the winners. On August 24th and 25th, I'm part of a very interesting project that happens at the Snoqualmie Railroad Depot. It's called the Suitcases Project and combines dance, movement, performances about the orphan trains, chapel cars, the deadliest avalanche in U.S. history that was in the Stevens Pass, some eclectic music and movement, and an homage to Morse code, because we need such things. And among the other things I'll be doing there is I'll be wandering around playing the part of a hobo poet. So I have a couple of hobo poems for you. And the first one, I'm going to read through it quickly, and then I'll go back again and explain what some of the words mean. Hobo lingo. When it's time to catch the westbound, you can take my Cali blankets, my road steak nickel notes, snipes, and bindle stick. Boil up my clothes to rid them of the crumbs and ask the buck for my bone orchard bed. When it's time to catch the westbound, die, you can take my Cali blankets, newspaper blankets, my road steak nickel notes, $5 bills, money, snipes, cigarette butts, and bindle stick, the long stick that they carry with their belongings tied at the end. Boil up my clothes, wash my clothes, to rid them of the crumbs, lice, and ask the buck, the Catholic priest, for my bone orchard bed, graveyard. Hobos you might know. You might know T-Bone Slim, Utah Phillips, Boxcar Bertha Thompson, Oates, Scoop Shovel Scotty, or C6 Steve, all good hobo men. But some folks you've heard of, some folks you know, were hobo folk too. Writers like Jim Tully, Jack London, George Orwell, Jack Kerouac, Louis L'Amour. No? Don't know those folks? Well, how about Robert Mitchum, Jack Dempsey, and Woody Guthrie? Yeah, they did some hobo time. We also got to claim a world-famous hobo clown, a Barnum and Bailey circus star, for years and years. No, not Freddie the Freeloader, but Emmett Kelly, sad-faced hobo clown. And there's lots more, but I won't brag. This hobo life is good sometimes and not really much a drag. Oh, there's times I'm lonely, cold, hungry, and sad, but freedom's got costs, and being your own boss, really not so bad. Not a Van Morrison tribute poem. Poets should never listen to Van Morrison when they're trying to write poetry. They shouldn't listen to Van Morrison when they're trying to write poetry. Poets shouldn't fall in love when they're trying to write, lying and crying to write. They shouldn't fall in love when they're trying to write poetry. Poets shouldn't think too much when they're trying to write, struggling to write, forcing themselves to try and write. Van Morrison falling in love, thinking too much, trying to write poetry. They shouldn't. Couple more. This poem is in the Rose Alley Press Many Trails to the Summit, and it's an homage to the most influential poet of the modern age, undeniably Seuss. Oh, the places I would go, and the things I could do, and all the things I could think just to gaze upon your sneeches, touch your yurtles, or smell your green eggs and ham. My mouth waters when I think of your ying, or you in the gox with the yellow socks, that mop-noodled finch. Oh, what I would do with your nasm of basm if given half a chance. Nothing can prevent this obsession I have, not Vipper or Skipper or any of the other Fuddnuddler brothers, not the single-file Zamzunian Zucks, the south-going Zacks, Thidwick the Moose, the Queen of Quincy, or even the Mayor of Whoville himself can control this zizzer-zazzer-zuzz of a wocket I feel that surpasses my longing for little Lola Lop, the right-side-up Songgirls, or even Yolanda Waldo Urensen. Now, don't get all misfuddly-duddle on me or tell me I'm no better than a peeping Nurgle or I belong with Van Vleck, the Vipper of Vip. Horton the Elephant and the Maisie Bird told me in no queet, quigger, or clots that my preep-pelf prue was made for your sneelock. And you can count your zummers that I won't be denied. I'll count 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish, win the butter battles and cooperate with Sam I Am. But I'll hold your varooms, caress your yurtles, and walk woombus with wump with you down Mulberry Street if it's the very last thing I ever to Williger do. I like dead poets. I don't have to be nice to dead poets. If I'm bored with their poems, I can close the book and stop reading. They will never know. They do not ask me what I think of their poems. I don't have to give a drunk dead poet a ride home. They won't vomit in my car. They don't need cab fare. I have not been stuck with a dead poet's bill. I have not had to make excuses for a dead poet's behavior. A dead poet has never stolen a phrase or idea from me. I like dead poets. Someday, I'll be a dead poet too. And finally, poem starter number 27. Slinky walks downstairs, rests, waits. 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 Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for reading. Always enjoy those poem starters and all the other poems. We'll take a 10-minute break. If you'd like to sign up for the open mic reading, it's sitting over there. We have a couple people signed up, so there's plenty of time for more. Before we break, I wanted to remind you that the Redmond Association of Spoken Word also has monthly readings here in Redmond, and they focus on fiction and nonfiction as well as poetry. The next reading is, because of the long weekend holiday we wanted to avoid, it is also going to be a week early too, so instead of the last Friday of the month, which is normal, it's going to be August 23, so in a couple of weeks. And it's a very special reading because it will feature poetry from the new RASP Poetry Anthology. And contributors to that will be getting information about RSVPing for that very soon. And it should be a very, very special reading. The book has 140 or 120 pages, 140 pages, and it features 120 poems by 70 poets. So, and Chris, you're in that. And that should be a great reading if you want to come August 23, and that's at the Old Redmond Schoolhouse Community Center here in Redmond. Let's take a break. Thank you.